This video is about solving basic trig equations. Part 1. Solve for x on the designed domain. X is greater than equal to 0 and less than equal to 2 pi. Let's draw the diagram between 0 to 2 pi. So we label this is a 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. First quadrant, second, third, fourth. All students take calculus. Here is pi over n minus 1 pi over n plus 1 pi over n, 2n minus 1 pi over n. For number 1, cosine x equals square root of 3 over 2. We will get the reference angle first. Since cosine 30 degree equals the square root of 3 over 2, that is pi over 6. Square root of 3 over 2 is positive. That's why they go to the first and then the fourth quadrant. Therefore, the first quadrant is pi over n. The fourth quadrant is 2n minus 1 pi over n. We know the n equals this 6. Therefore, your answer will be x equals pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. Because 2 times 6 minus 1, that's 11. For cosine x equals negative square root of 3 over 2. We know the reference angle is the same, 30 degree equals pi over 6. Since this is a negative, all students take calculus. They go to the second and then the third. So we do n minus 1 pi over n. It will be x equals 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. For sine x equals square root of 3 over 2. We know the reference angle equals 60 degree. That is pi over 3. Since square root of 3 over 2 is positive, so go to first and then the second quadrant. Therefore, the first quadrant angle is pi over 3. For second quadrant angle is 2 pi over 3. For sine x equals negative square root of 3 over 2, your reference angle is 60 degree equals pi over 3. Since this is a negative, it will go to the third and then the fourth quadrant. Therefore, your x equals 4 pi over 3 and 5 pi over 3. For tangent x equals 1, alpha reference angle equals 45 degree equals pi over 4. And this is a positive, so go to first and then the third quadrant. You will get x equals pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4. For tangent x equals negative 1, reference angle still the same. It's a 45 degree pi over 4. Since this is a negative, so go to the second and then the fourth quadrant. So your x equals 3 pi over 4 and 7 pi over 4. Now let's go to this domain, x greater than equal to negative pi, less than equal to pi. Let's draw the diagram in the domain of closed interval from negative pi to pi. So I have 0, this is a pi. This is pi over 2. So we have pi over n. Then this one is n minus 1 pi over n. Then from negative pi to 0, this will be negative pi over 2. Then we will get opposite of pi over n will be negative pi over n. Get the opposite of this, you will get the negative n plus 1 pi over n. We will use this diagram to solve. The reference angle is the same. The quadrant is the same. Then the x will be first quadrant still pi over 6. Fourth quadrant will be negative pi over 6. For cosine, negative square root of 3 over 2. Second quadrant angle is 5 pi over 6. The third quadrant angle will be negative 5 pi over 6. Let's move on this problem. The reference angle is pi over 3. The quadrant is first and then the second. So it will be exactly same, pi over 3 and 2 pi over 3. For third and then the fourth quadrant, you will get negative 2 pi over 3 and negative pi over 3. For tangent x equals to 1, first and then the third quadrant, you will get the x equals negative pi over 4 and negative 3 pi over 4. For tangent x equals negative 1, you will get second and then the fourth quadrant. The second will be the same, that is 3 pi over 4. The fourth will be negative pi over 4. Negative pi over 4. Part 2 is about quadrantal angles. So in different domain, what's the solution for quadrantal angles? When sine, cosine, the value is 0, 1, negative 1. Think about quadrantal angles. When tangent is equals to 0, think about quadrantal angles. We will draw the first diagram from 0 to 2 pi. 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. So the coordinate will be 1, 0, 0. This is a negative 1, 0, 0. This is 0, 1, undefined. 0, negative 1, undefined. Coordinate is CST. For the closed interval from negative pi to pi, we will label this is 0, pi over 2. Then this is pi. Then here's 0, negative pi over 2. Then negative pi. Write down the coordinate. This is 1, 0, 0. This is negative 1, 0, 0. 0, 1, undefined. And 0, negative 1, undefined. The coordinate always CST. Now for cosine x equals 0. Look at the first diagram. You will see pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. So I write down x equals pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. When the domain is between negative pi and pi, you could say the x will be pi over 2 and negative pi over 2. For cosine x equals negative 1, first diagram, that is pi. For the second diagram, you could say equals pi and negative pi. For cosine x equals to 1, in the first diagram, it's here, 0 to pi. For the second diagram, it's just 0. For sine x equals to 0, that's here. So for the first diagram, you have 0, pi, 2 pi. For the second diagram, it's here, 0, 0. So you could say 0, pi, and negative pi. When sine x equals negative 1, for the first diagram, it's here, this one. So you have 3 pi over 2. For the second diagram, it will be negative pi over 2. For sine x equals to 1, the first diagram is pi over 2. The second diagram still pi over 2. For tangent x equal to 0, you could see the first diagram that is on the x-axis. So x equals 0, pi, and 2 pi. For the second diagram, it's 0, pi, negative pi.